After you gone and left me crying, after you gone, there's no denying. You seem blue, you feel sad. There'll come a time, now don't forget it, baby. There'll come a time when you regret it. Someday, when you grow lonely, your heart will break that mind. You want me only after you gone. Oh, dance. Has a little surprise for you tonight. A new young talent, Miss Victoria Hoffman. Come on, everybody. Let's give the little girl a great big welcome. After you get what you want, you don't want it.
Okay, welcome everybody. Let me change one thing for a moment. Welcome everybody to this interview with Mr. John Kimmins. Many of you know the man. I've seen him around dance event, dance competition for many years, but you know, it's always nice to have a little chat with the person, so we know the in and out of his life and his philosophy. You know, he's been, as you saw my post, he's been a great friend of mine, a teacher of mine, also a great supporter of my dancing career. So, you know, while I was preparing this interview, it was not very easy for me to start, you know, putting questions together because I don't know where to start, where to go. You know, there is a lot. Obviously, we don't want to spend a year on the web, but I think it's nice for you that you know this a little bit more about Mr. John Kimmins. So I would like to welcome him. Here we go. John, welcome to the interview. And thank you for taking some of your time to come here and talk to, not to me, but to the people that are watching, basically, you know, at home. Well, obviously you talk to me, but, you know, we discussed so many times over the years. But it's, as I said on my opening speech, it's nice for people that, you know, that they see people around the floor, they're being contributed to dancing. They also, it's nice if they have a possibility to know them better, you know. And normally the possibility to know people better is when you speak to them. Now we have this pandemic and problems that we maybe, you know, can bring this dancing world a little bit more together, and we know more about people, about what they did. So thank you for taking your time. My first question, John, is this. You know, I've been in the dancing world since I was 6. So now I'm, what am I, 53. So for a few years, let's say. And I can truly say that Mr. John Kimmins is a man that but really love the dancing world, or the dancing as we know. And can you tell me where this love starts and how you carry on all these years with the love of dancing like you do?
Well, I was 12 years old when I first started to take lessons. I'd been to a competition in my hometown in Toowoomba with my mother, and she said, "Do you like this?" And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty good." I mean, I thought they were really good. They probably weren't that good when I think back, but I thought they were good. I particularly like watching people doing the quick step, if I recall properly. So my mum, she liked dancing because she danced with all the US soldiers at the end of the war when they were all in Australia. So, so she said, "Well, why don't you go and take some lessons?" So I went to this little studio in my hometown in Toowoomba, and I knew after my second lesson, this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So it was quite clear to me that I fell in love with dancing very early.
But what is about dancing, John? Well, you obviously you like is music, is the two, what is it?
I think the music, the contact. I think the girls too at that time. It was kind of nice.
That was my driving motive too, John.
So I enjoyed that, and of course, then a lot of my pals from school came to the studio as well, and it was just a little studio in Toowoomba, but you know, one British amateur champion came out of there, and another boy who was third in the pro, John Thornton and Wendy. So we both came from the same little studio and at the same time. Wow. And in Brisbane, there were also some great dancers. Philip Nicholas was a colleague of mine. Philip was doing more Latin than ballroom at that time. But there were lots and lots of good dancers in Queensland.
Yeah. And is that studio still existing?
I don't think Gordon Ryland's studio is there anymore, because I think Gordon passed away. But the Sandy Robertson studio where I went to in Brisbane, I'm quite sure it's still there. I mean, Sandy died some years ago. His second wife, Barbara, is still alive and lives on the Gold Coast. And Barbara's very good friends with, or was when Alan Fletcher's mum and dad. They and Sandy became great friends afterwards as well. But Sandy was quite the character.
Yeah. So, and since then, basically, you know, you spend all your life, you know, I know a little bit. You just briefly, you went to England, you went to America.
Yeah. Well, I started dancing with Carol after I'd moved to Brisbane in Sandy's studio. I had a couple of other partners briefly, and did quite well. And then Carol, I think, was already the Queensland champion and it stopped, and I convinced her, probably to her chagrin, convinced her to come back and dance with me. And when we did very well. And we were moved to Sydney, took a lot of lessons with some good people in Sydney, Ray Rivers particularly, and his ex-wife Judy, Donna's mother and father, Ray and Margaret, Kevin Caldron. And then, but our goal was that we would go to England. And we went to England at the end of 1970. And
Amazing.
I lived in England for 7 years. And then after Carol and I had broken up, then I moved to America, to Chicago.
To America.
Yeah.
Now, while you're speaking, it's always amazed me. How you keep your memory? We all know you, and when you start saying stories and you go back to 40 years, you remember the name of this or name of that. That guy danced with this. How do you remember all this, John? How there is a trick that we can learn from you?
No, I think it was very lucky that I learned to read when I was very, very young. And I think learning to read helped me with my memory, because I could remember I could read before I ever went to school. But I learned to read from memorizing library books that my father would bring home for me. So I think that had a lot to do with my having a good memory. And I don't have a photographic memory, but I have a good memory.
Yeah, I know you have a very good memory. You remember names of 40, 50 years ago that, I don't know.
Well, I struggle sometimes today, but I make myself think until I can remember it properly. So.
Okay, so let me ask you this, John. This is important for, the dancers today. Spell it wrong. Do you ever had a bad lesson? And if yes, why? You don't have to tell us who it was, but if yes, why? If there was a bad lesson in your career?
Yeah, I think I've had probably in all the lessons I took, and there were many. I think I've had 2 bad lessons.
And what was bad about it?
It's my fault because I wasn't probably listening correctly, but I didn't like what the teacher was telling me, and I didn't like the way that she pushed me around and pushed Carol around.
Okay.
Very, very, very physical. And I didn't like it. So I decided that's the only teacher that I've ever been to that I didn't go back to. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you have to take lessons with people that they inspire you, and they make you feel good. And I remember having lessons with you many times, and all the people that still have lesson with you, the comment that you get back, that after when you teach, you make people feel better about what they do and feel more confident. So I think that's a great asset to give people that.
I attribute that a lot to my Arthur Murray training. And when I first came to Chicago, I taught a lot of single ladies who were older, but quite good dancers because they'd been well schooled. In that Chicago Arthur Murray studio, there were some terrific teachers who'd been there before me. Vernon Brock, Beverly Donahue were there.
Wow.
Mary and Betty Silvers worked there before they worked, or after they worked for Phil Masters, actually. And then Tommy and Kay Patterson were there. There was another great teacher there called Mike Bible, Mike was a big, heavy guy, but he was a very good dancer and choreographer. And then Todd Hunter was there before them. And that goes back to the kind of the Bill and Bobby era, when Bill and Bobby were coming to the United States and going and visiting all the Arthur Murray studios for 6 weeks at a time, twice a year. And of course I
remember they were doing that trip. Yeah,
who sent me to Chicago, because I said, I'm going to go to America for a year because my life in England had fallen apart, kind of, and we just won the British and split up. And she said, well, you're going to Arthur Murray's. And she said, choose which one, Columbus, Cleveland, or Chicago, because they all do international style and you'll fit in well in any of those 3 studios. And I said, well, I'll go to Chicago because that's the biggest. So that's why I went to Chicago. Yeah. So that was Bobby, really, and Bill insisting.
Yeah, they asked you to go there.
There was no choice. I was going to Arthur Murray.
Bobby was very when she demanding something from people. So, but actually she was right. Many times, I would say nearly all the time she was right in pushing people somewhere. Which is turned out an outstanding career that you had in there. Okay, just as you president of Arthur Murray, and I'm involved with Arthur Murray for due to you. We don't say that story now here because that's our bedroom story. Need to stay secret. We don't have to disclose that. But
we with the big black book.
How an advice for competitors that are watching, because obviously you're a competitor, and then when when you compete, you are hoping to have a success in your career, and then at the end of your career you need to look for future. So when do you think is, it doesn't have to be an art of studio, but when do you think a competitor should really think, okay, let me start thinking about my future after competition, and let me start thinking about opening a dance studio? Do you have an advice, if it's during, after, or if you have any preferred time?
Well, I think it's very hard to run a studio when you're still competing, because I tried to, and I found it to be difficult, because when you're competing, it's a lot of demand for practice time, and of course when you're running a studio, it's like it's a 12-hour day a lot of the time, and so I would think, make your plans, learn, study about the profession, get your qualifications, and then also study about, learning to run a studio. But it's not easy while you're still competing. But I go back and I think about my whole involvement in dancing. I was inspired by seeing Bill and Bobby dance in Australia.
Yeah.
The first big competition I ever went to was the 1967 World Professional Championship held in Melbourne. I think it was actually the first time I was on a plane, to tell you the truth.
Oh, wow.
I was 18, and I was going to go back to Brisbane to start dancing with Carol. And I was with Sandy and Connie, who were very well-known people in Australia, well-known to Bill and Bobby too, because Bill and Bobby actually took a few lessons with Sandy at one time. He was a very, very good teacher. And he was a Scot originally, like Bill. And sitting there, I had a front row seat, very fortunate for a young boy. And the Latin was first. And Bill and Bobby got beaten by Rudy and Match when Bill and Bobby were the favorites. But they had a bad night. The rumba was the first dance, and she stuck a heel through a dress in the rumba, and then they played El Comanchero for a Pasado play. And I think Rudy was ready, because he was listening to the music. He knew it was not going to be ideal. So anyway, the next night was the ballroom. Bill and Bobby had lost the Latin, but the ballroom, I mean, they were just superb. Absolutely. And that was my inspiration to want to be really good.
Yeah. That's amazing. See, I see. Go back to your memories. See how many things you remember. You even remember the tune is played.
I can remember it vividly in the Viennese waltz. He was sailing around the floor, and Rudy Trouch used to take lessons with Bill, even at that time when they were competing against each other. And I don't know whether Rudy would remember that, but Bill sailed past him in the Viennese waltz, and I heard him turn over his shoulder and said, "Why don't you learn how to move, man?" And boy, is he arrogant. But
that was Bill, huh?
He knew he was good, and it was just, I just wanted to become a really good dancer after that. So
could we say that this was your best memory that you can actually bring with you in your dancing, this night?
Not my best memory. I think I've got some good memories and some bad memories. I think.
Yeah, I have both. I have both questions. Good. Which one is the good memory? Which one is the bad memory? The worst memory that you have?
Good memory is winning the world, winning the British. That was a very good memory. The bad one is losing the World's Amateur in Berlin. Because I thought we would win pretty easily, and we came third. But
oh wow,
we don't need to comment on that. We went back to Germany 2 weeks later and danced against the same people who were first and second and won every dance. But there were at the competition, the second one in Dusseldorf was run by Heidegard Grayson and Gunther, her husband. It was the forerunner of the German Open. But see, they were all professional judges at that comp, whereas at the World's Amateur, there were a lot of what we used to call amateur judges. And sometimes it was a bit
Yeah.
I should have been better.
Okay.
I wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Well, but sometimes you don't get what you want straight away, and you have to,
And I have good memories of other people as well. I was especially thrilled when you and Katerina won the Worlds in Provo, at BYU.
Yeah.
That was a thrill
Yeah.
for me. And to see you guys do well, and to see the beautiful dancing that you all produced after that. And I wasn't, unfortunately, I think the only time, maybe I've missed Blackpool twice, but in 1993, when you guys first made the final after you'd won the World Amateur, and I wasn't in Blackpool, so I had to represent the company at a trial in Cleveland. And the judge wouldn't finish the trial, so I could go to Blackpool. I had to stay in Cleveland. So I did that, and that was something I regret that I missed, but I've seen it on video, and I must say, the dancing that you all produced was just fabulous. It was lovely. And, before that, I admired Richard and Janet so much.
Uh-huh.
I thought
there was, I never seen Richard and Janet dance live.
They were beautiful dancers, and Anthony and Faye as well, very much. And I took a lot of lessons with Anthony, and who was, I think, a fantastic teacher. But I just loved the way, particularly, that Richard and Janet danced, and I tried to model my dancing a little bit on Richard and Janet.
Yeah.
We pretty much all had the same teachers then. So
yeah. What did you say? What do you like about Richard and Janet? What was the clarity of the action? What was it?
The purity of movement is what I liked more than anything.
And today, sorry, you go. Sorry, John. Sorry.
No, I just think that's what appealed to me, and I'd watch them because we all practiced together. So I'd watch Richard and Janet practice, and if they did something wrong, I thought, well, this is good. They're just walking together. Richard would drop his arms, and Janet would drop her arms, and they'd just walk, and they would balance, which to me was a big. I learned a lot from watching them practice, actually.
Yeah. Where was this practice? Was this as Hammersmith? Say that again, John. Sorry.
We owe them a fee from watching them practice, because I learned a lot from it. Yeah, you'd practice at Bob Burgess's at the Grafton on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they were often there, and I'd see them other places. And always loved to watch.
Practice. Did you practice at the Hammersmith Palais?
Yes, when I was first in, all the time when I lived in England, we'd go to Palais because we used to have lessons with Sonny, and then Palais would have the tea dance on Tuesday evenings generally at that time, and sometimes on a Sunday they would have a tea dance, 2 orchestras, revolving stage, so that there was no orchestra break, so they had 2 orchestras. And all the top dancers would go there, and they'd have a wonderful demonstration that was organized by Sonny. And, I still remember a beautiful demonstration of Anthony and Faye. It was so impressive. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that you received a letter from Sonny after he died, actually,
No. That was from Len Scrivener.
Oh, from Len Scrivener.
Yes. Because
Can you tell us a little bit about this? Because
Scrivener. The first person I ever took a lesson from in England was Bob Burgess.
Okay.
2 days later, I had my first lesson with Scrivener. And I was sitting outside of Sidney Francis's studio in Balham, which is where Len taught. And some couple were in there having a lesson. I didn't know who they were because he wouldn't let you go in and wait inside. You had to wait in the alcove, sit down in the lobby. And I heard him shouting out at this couple, "I said foxtrot, man, foxtrot, not quick step, not quick step." And I thought, oh, my dear, what's going to happen? And so we went in and we had our lesson, like Len always did. People who were listening who knew Len. He looked out the window, trying to be a bit nonchalant, I guess, or superior. And we finished our waltz, and he came over and he said, he looked a little bit. He said, "You've got a chance." But we became good friends, and Carol didn't like Len at the end. He didn't like how he was trying to get me to dance, and so he and Carol wouldn't go for the lessons, so I went by myself. And finally, Len was asked to judge Blackpool, because he'd kind of been put aside for many years. I guess he had an argument with Mrs. Island at one stage. I'm not sure. Anyway, finally he'd been asked to judge Blackpool, and I was leaving to come to America. We said our fond farewells, and he went down to Swansea for Dale and Lissa James and Jacqueline for a competition, and he had a heart attack while he was in Swansea, and he died just a week after. But when a few days later, I got this letter from him, handwritten, beautifully written. Len was a very good writer, and it said, "John, don't forget your dancing. You're a good dancer. Don't just become a commercial person. Remember your love for dancing." I'll never forget that. It meant a lot.
Nice.
It meant a lot to me that Len took the time to write to me.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, he's an important person, and now you've been so lucky to take lesson with all this
I was
icon.
very, very fortunate that people that I was able to take lessons with, because, and as a favor to Jack Reevely and a long-term project for Dance News, I've still only written about 4 pages. This is about 20 years now that I'm supposed to write a little journal about all my former teachers, the people I took lessons with. And my first lesson in England was with Bob Burgess. My second was with Scriv. And then Bill and Bobby, Sonny, Benny Tolmeyer, Michael Needham, Peter and Brenda, Anthony, Eric Hancox, and Latin was Nina Hunt. And I took a few lessons with Sidney Francis as well in the early days. But they were all wonderful characters, and I think fabulous teachers. But all thought, even though they might say it differently, I really believe they all wanted the same thing. And
yeah, just a different way of explaining.
There was very little. I must say there was very little contradiction.
Yeah.
The contradiction was probably in my understanding things and not getting it right or not being good enough. I mean, really. But we got to be pretty good. So
yeah. Good. Let me. Oh, Angelo Madonia say hello.
That's so cool.
and Antonio Giancada too.
Antonio.
Hi, guys.
Oh wow, Antonio and Roberto. I texted him the other day.
See. Okay, let me ask you a fun question now. Well, let me find it. If you could travel in time, where will you go? If you could travel in time.
You thinking forward or backward?
Doesn't matter. You can travel. It's your choice. Reverse or forward.
I'd love to go backwards in many ways.
When?
And dance in the
When?
Dance in the 30s or the 20s, in the old days of dancing, when to me the music was so beautiful. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's still beautiful today, but I love that old style ballroom music. And so
with that sound of the record player, you know, they would. Yeah.
And I mean, I particularly responded even when we first danced at the International. There was Victor Sylvester's orchestra, and there was also Billy Turner played. And Billy Turner, I thought Victor was fantastic also. But I love the music that Billy Turner played, especially the waltzes and foxtrots. But that era of music that comes back from the 30s and the 40s is what really appealed to me. So.
And do you think that the new trend of music is also what influenced the new trend of dancing too? Do you feel that is, or is the dancing that influenced a new trend of music? What do you think is what you know? Because the obviously dancing is a little bit different than what it used to be, and I'm not judging if it's good or bad. I'm only I can say this is my opinion, but John, you know, please I think that we lost character in the dances, so it does not look, the tango doesn't look tango name.
I fully agree, especially the tango, and to some degree, the quick step. But
and do you think is a problem with the music that is being played, or do you think is a problem with the dancing is being done, and therefore the music follow that?
well, I think there's too many syncopations. Trying to be too clever. Show me how you can dance. Show me your natural turn. Show me your feather step. Show me a beautiful reverse wave. Show me a beautiful closed promenade and a running finish. This is what I want, because basically what I was trained upon, this is what I learned. So this is what I know and recognize, and I think, pretty much tell who can do it better than somebody else can.
Sure.
When everyone's syncopating and running around, it's very difficult.
Here's Arianna Esposito to say, hi, dear John, you're kind of special, and you all have always inspired me and Gianni. Can you see this on the video I just posted? Arianna and Gianni.
Oh, Arianna. Caliandro, lovely people.
Yeah.
She's a beautiful artist, you know.
Sorry?
She paints beautifully.
Oh, really?
Arianna. Oh, yeah. Beautifully.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good to know.
Very
okay. So let me. Are you good in any other sport? Were you good, or are you?
Yeah, I was quite good at sport as a child. At school, I was. I played rugby league for the state as a young boy.
Wow.
I was good at cricket.
Rugby is tough.
Yeah.
Tough rugby, you know.
But never got hurt. I stopped when I was 16 because I didn't want to get hurt for dancing. But I loved cricket. Cricket was my favorite game. But I played squash as well. And the boy I first started playing squash with in Toowoomba went on to be ranked number 3 in the world later on as a young man. And I love to run.
To running.
And running was something that I loved to do. I was quite good at it. Not sprinting, but running a little bit of distance even as a young boy. And you know, Toowoomba is like 2,500 feet above sea level. So
wow. Like Utah. Oh no, same kind of height.
Oh, half as high as Utah. But
okay.
But you know, you ran, and I used to run 2 or 3 miles a day, so it gave you tremendous lung capacity. So fortunately, competitions when we had long comps, I was lucky that Carol was a terrific dancer, a great rib cage, so she was always there for me. But I never got tired. So that was a big thing, and used to talk about that a lot with one of my colleagues, with Bob and Barbara Grover. And Bob used to say, "How come you never get tired?" And I'd say, "I guess I'm lucky," but I put it back to that background of sport when I was a kid, of running so much. But that's what I like to do. I mean, you did kind of a sport for every season at that time. Rugby was in the winter, cricket was in the summer, track was in the autumn or the fall, and squash you used to play because it was indoors. We used to play squash year round. So,
wow, that's a lot. That's a lot.
In England, I played squash for a little bit, and I particularly remember playing one match with Peter Maxwell, and I was pretty decent. Peter was just learning, really. And of course, you know, in squash, the aim is to give each other a good workout. So I hit a pretty good shot. Peter said, "Oh, jolly good shot, John." And I said, "Peter, the aim is for you to chase it and hit it and get it back." Still remember clearly.
I remember I played squash with David Sycamore in England.
I played with David when David was first starting too.
Let me tell you, I could not even touch one ball.
At Wimbledon, David got to be quite proficient, I believe.
Yeah, well, I couldn't touch a ball, you know, no chance. I was just looking around. I was running and wet, but nothing happened.
You were doing a Maxwell.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so an advice, John. We know from many dancers we discussed before that you are a very positive and inspirational teacher. You know, some people just posted as well, who give encouragement in principle. Can you share with everybody, let's say, 3 things that you think can be the fundamental of a success of the technique of a dancer?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could go back a little bit to some of the old Arthur Murray things and say, quick, fun, easy. But that's when you're teaching competitive dancing, it's not quite the same. But I was very well prepared. And remember, I was very lucky that I stayed at Bill and Bobby's house. Most of the time I was teaching in England, which I did regularly for about 10 years. And people don't realize how well prepared she was, because we would sit up chatting at night and having a glass of champagne or two. And but she would talk to me, and then I would go to bed and I would think about my lessons for the coming day. And I was very fortunate that I had all the best people who were coming to lessons. I kind of feel that Bobby Urban had a bit to do with that, but I don't think it's my stellar reputation. But I enjoyed all my lessons, and I think I could say pretty honestly that my pupils enjoyed it, because I wanted them to be better at the end of my lesson.
Yeah, but can you tell us three things that you think people should have, they should work on? Three quality they have to work on in order to become successful.
I don't think there's 3 qualities. You just have to have a better technique. And many things that go into that. The hold is very important to me, the hands, and how you use your arms. And there's so many things, but I go back always.
Are you still teaching with that credit card? You still giving lessons with that credit card?
I'll ask Sasha Karabay to tell you the credit card story. It's a long story. When they first made their amateur final at the UK, Sasha danced. I'll tell a story on Sasha. He won't mind. He made a little card for himself. It was a little green card out of cardboard that he had in his fingers all the time through the comp until the final.
Oh, wow.
They thought they weren't going to make the final. I said, you'll make it. You're good enough. Oh, it's not. I don't think so, John. And he carried that card through the entire comp. And he had a beautiful right hand.
Yeah, I think, I remember Bobby said the last battle of a champion, the right hand.
Well, right side, I think, mostly what people would say. That was a Hancock's mantra too. But I remember Brenda particularly used to say, you give me a good right hand and a right elbow, I'll do the rest. And it was true. She could.
Yeah, amazing.
These 2 ladies that I was so lucky that I was able to dance with a lot, with 2 of the greatest lady dancers ever, and Bobby and Brenda. And they were
how
different.
Yeah, what is the on your point of view, the quality that has to have a female dancer that to become an outstanding dancer like the 2 people that you just mentioned? What do you think is?
Well, I think you think not just them, but Doreen Freeman, Janet Gleave, Vicky Barr, particularly. I won't talk about the latest era, but beautiful feet from the lady. I mean, they had beautiful feet. So they were always supported. They supported their weight so well and made it so easy as a man for you to dance with them. And I mean, I must say that physically, Bobby and Brenda were very different, and I think danced quite differently too. But Brenda, you could probably give it, for me, more of a go with Brenda. With Bobby, I learned particularly that I had to lead properly, I had to move myself and not try to move the lady. And I still remember a lesson in Streatham, before it was the Starlight, when Bill and Bobby first took the studio over. Excuse me. Open telemark, turning to hovercross, turning to same foot lunge. And I was having particular trouble doing the hovercross with Bobby. And then remember, she said to me, do you think I'm a good dancer? I said, well, I think you're the best. She said, well, why don't you just do your part and let me do mine without your trying to assist me? And I learned that something that always became a teaching thing of mine as a man. Put yourself in position and the lady will be fine. You don't have to try to put her in position, but you have to be really good at it, about putting yourself in position. But I was so fortunate to have the blessings of being able to dance with those two women so much.
Yeah. And what about, can you tell us a little bit, about, because when I came to, I met you, I don't remember how many years ago. You probably remember more than me, John, when you saw me the first time. And then I remember that me and Katrina came to Miami. You invited us to dance the USDC. And I remember, I was exposed to Pro-Am first time. And I thought, what the hell is this?
Yeah. Well, I think
I don't get it.
A lot of people thought, of course, I did it from immediately. I came to America quite a lot, mainly in Arthur Murray's, but also with one of my students who was what you call now a Ladies C, actually won the Ladies A in New York at DC. But go back a little bit, and I'll tell you a story about the first time I saw you and Katerina. I was with Bobby judging at one of Keith Burton's competitions in Hemel Hempstead. It wasn't the Hertz Ball, but it was another good comp. And Bill didn't want to go, so Bobby said, John's here. Is it okay if he comes and judges in Bill's place? And Keith, of course, was very acquiescent to that. So I drove Bobby, and watching the first round of the amateur ballroom, I saw this couple come down the floor in the waltz. I was very taken with the couple. And I went over to Bobby between the dances and I said, I think I just saw a future world champion. Perhaps I was a bit out of line to say that. He said, what number? I said, 85, and it was you and Katerina.
Oh my God.
I was kind of taken in from the very first moment. And then, I followed your career ever since, and hey, turned out
for sure.
Turned out to be pretty darn good.
Well, so, you also I can say, Bobby push you to do things. You didn't push me to do things, but you introduced me to an Arthur Murray and to a new career myself. If it wasn't for the chat that we had that night, and then obviously my decision and the hard work that I put in, then that's okay. But I've seen a different angle of dancing that I was not exposed before, thanks to you. So, and that's what I said. How can we tell people that Pro-Am or teaching student and teaching dancing does not have to be teaching the world champion or teaching, but you have to have passion for.
I think you have to have passion first of all for people, and you have to understand.
Passion for people.
You have to understand very much and really believe it, because I do, that dancing will change people's lives, and it's a sort of a self-confidence that both men and women get, and I've seen it change so many lives. That people become happier because of dancing. I mean, sometimes as competitors, we get much sadder because of dancing.
Yeah, of course.
But learning to teach people to dance socially, I think, is a beautiful profession. It's what I was taught when I first went to Arthur Murray's, that you can give so much, and you have to be ready to give of yourself to your pupils, whether it be a single lady, a single man, or a couple. Because you have to really want the best for them. And I was the same when I taught competitive couples. I wanted the best for them, and they knew it.
Yeah.
Quite genuine.
And so
nothing fake about it.
Sure. Of course, that's what I was saying, in the opening, your love for dancing, your love for people is actually, for people, they have a time, they have a moment to talk to you, is really transparent. So, and you've been, it's not that you're saying that today that you are an interview. You basically lived your life like that. I remember how many people you helped, in the dancing world?
I was strictly encouraged by a certain lady called Mrs. Bobby Urban to be helpful to people, because she would say to me, I will help you, but you help everybody else. And to get sponsors, she was remarkable. She'd just go to people and say, can't you help sponsor this competition next year? And this was the US Championship. And and they would invariably say to her, yes. And of course, I had a deal with her that you never spend the money on yourself. The money goes to the couples and to the judges, and it doesn't go into the profits of the company. It comes back. And
it goes back into the system, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I go there. When I was divorcing from American Ballroom Company, there were a few philosophical arguments about that, but that's okay. But she was, I mean, the woman was an inspiration to everybody, to all of us. And I know also know I could say this about Bill and Bobby, and a lot of other people too, not just Bill and Bobby, but if they wanted you to be good enough to be the champion, they genuinely had a desire. If they taught you, they would hope you would be that good. But they also cared about your success as a person and your career.
As a human being, basically.
Yes, and I've always tried to be a little bit like that myself, as much as I could, with human frailties as well.
Sure. And and what do you see? Where do you see the Arthur Murray going? Because I could say that English dancing is developed all over the world, but the pro-am, and the how to conduct studio, I could say that, in my case anyway, I learned from from Arthur Murray. And how do you see the company going in the future? What is your vision?
Well, I think we'll continue to grow. I mean, obviously the pandemic has slowed things down for everybody, but
yeah, of course.
But I think we'll continue to grow. I think social dancing will just and pro-am dancing is just going to evolve throughout the world. And you see today a lot of people become very interested in American in smooth, which I think is beautiful. I've always loved it.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And so many people are doing it and loving it, and it's only going to add to the dancing. Look what happened. I remember when I first went to England in 1970, 71, there were not many couples from overseas who lived in England at that time. There was myself.
Yeah, it was mainly all English people there. Yeah?
Myself and Carol. Thinking of the overseas couples, Philip and Jan, Mickey and Momo Kazuka and Tetsu and Chieko were there. Robert and Helen Ritchie from Australia, Russ Hesketh, and a few others. But then of course the German couples would come backwards and forwards, but it was mainly other people. And then gradually the world started to evolve and more people started to learn the English style. And, I mean, Espen and Schisten, great breakthroughs in Norway, what they did, their breakthrough when they became such excellent dancers. And that brought Norwegian dancing up. We brought Australian dancing up. I mean, the Germans always had a good level, always excellent level. And then other countries started to get interested, especially the Scandinavian countries, and then Asia. Japan, of course, was very, very strong at those times. And then other Asian countries started to get involved. And Australia's always been a bastion of good dancing. It's just that they're so far away. So it's for the Aussies to travel so much backwards and forwards unless you're able to spend the time to move to England. And when I was there, I was able to move easily to England because Australians at that time were allowed to work in England without any problem. And Carol's father was born in England, so we didn't have any issues. Greg and Marion had to fight a few times to get in and out. I can remember sometimes. But I think it's just been English coaches started to travel much more. there was more demand, and of course the dancing got much more worldwide, which I think is terrific.
What would you?
I think it's going to happen with social dancing. I see it happening that way with the growth of
Yeah.
Arthur Murray's. And you know, I mean, Arthur Murray's in 24 countries, from say 4 countries 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Quite big, as you well know yourself.
Yes.
So I only see it expanding more and more. But
And what would you on competitive dancing? What would you change, or what would you hope is changing? Could change in the future for?
Oh, I'd love to see major league sponsorship. That we don't have to rely on our students and our patrons, wealthy people, to supply all of the funds to run a big comp. If we could get major league sponsors in, but I mean that's another big question, how you do that. I mean,
yeah,
you pretty much
difficult.
You've got to have television to be able to do that for the exposure for the sponsors. And I don't think that our competition format with 6 couples on the floor is necessarily a good format for TV, because people can't always see what's going on. But you know, I think that the dancers today are fabulous dancers, and beautiful people. There's got to be an attraction there. I mean, to watch a beautiful dancer, to me, is exciting and more exciting than to watch Federer play tennis. And he's so graceful when he plays.
Yeah, true.
And you know, we all have our favorite exponents, and some that we like better than others. But certainly that everyone who's, I mean, I look at the 48 now, and I think, my God, they're all good, and they are good.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes I don't like particularly what they do, I recognize they're darn good. And it's when you're judging a big comp, pulling 24 from 48 and leaving out.
Yeah, in a minute, you know, writing down the number. Some competitors don't know how difficult really, truly is to judge those rounds. But any rounds, you know, they don't understand how difficult, you know,
You have
difficult task.
You have a lot of difficult choices to make. And
yeah, I hate judging myself, so because of that.
I quite enjoy judging, but I don't always like the results. Sometimes my own results. But
yeah,
I think with you have 11 or 13 of pretty expert people, you have to accept what the majority comes up with.
Yeah. I think the system with the skating system can actually can even out, you know, between all the judges' selection, can even out and make the right result. I have for sure. Here we go. I have a question. There is Glenn Boyce. Hello, dear John. It's absolutely fantastic to listen to you today. Thank you for inspiring us to work hard and enjoy. Lots of love, Glenn and Carol.
Well, love to those 2 little ones. Great.
Little. I've seen a picture. It doesn't look any little anymore.
Not so little anymore. He's not as tall as his dad or his granddad yet, but you know, we go back a long way.
He's on the way.
I mean, Glenn and Annette were Carol and I. We were big rivals. And yeah, big rivals, but always pretty good friends. I think once we got into an argument once, but that was all.
Well, as usual, you know, competition is like that, you know, it's bringing people. But you know, I remember the
Glenn, Richard, and Carol.
Sorry?
I think they've got great promise, and I think they're going to be right up there. They're wonderful. I love them.
You got Mr. Tommy Shaughnessy say hello.
Sure.
To be sure.
They were fond memories of the Irish Open. I remember.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Coming to dance in the pro there, and some great comps for the amateurs. They were wonderful days. Tommy and Ann put on a great show, and I loved being a part of it. And we used to stay up late every night. Oh my God,
and parties.
Just like the old Cheviot days, my lord.
in Chevia, you used to have a club there. You, Greg.
We won't get into that club too much, but let's say we all used to enjoy sharing a libation or two after the comp, and there was me and Greg and Freddie Beister and Alan Fletcher and a few others. Ratner was always there, but the club was for men only, and we had good times. And
yeah, I remember that.
They played some dreadful jokes on me. My God, they got in so much trouble with Beverly once, but it was a terrible joke. So anyway,
oh, that's good. All right. So, here we go. Tommy's. Look what Tommy's writing. Icos Club.
No, it wasn't called that. It was BB, Booze Brothers International, BBI.
Okay.
Fred used to take minutes of all our meetings. And
oh, really?
I can't go into the requirements. You always have to. Well,
you don't reveal it.
Not politically correct.
Not politically. Okay, let me ask you this question. At the end of a competition, what part of your body was the most tired?
Oh, with me, it was always my knees.
Your knees?
Yeah.
You have a problem with your knees now, eh? Left or right, John?
I've got very bad arthritis in my right side, strangely enough. But I don't understand why it's not on my left side, but I guess it's a blessing it's on me. But I was lowering too much.
Yeah.
And I remember coming home and from the international, I think we'd come in there at a third or fourth. It's an interesting story, actually, because I talk a lot about it in lessons. Now, we practiced a lot, so we could lower. We were perfect, but we were perfectly wrong. I said to Carol, why is my knee so darn sore? And she said, she was very astute and a very good dancer. And she said, oh, I think we could be lowering too much.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lesson with Peter the next morning. We were early and Peter was generally a little bit late anyway. I think we were the first lesson. And I said, let's go down just a little bit early and we can practice a bit, try less lowering. So I did a 3-step with less lowering and Carol said, that feels better. And then we had a lesson with Peter. I said, Peter, can I show you something? Because Peter always thought that my leg action was a bit choppy.
Uh-huh.
And so I said, I'm going to do this a different way. He said, you're right. This is correct. I said, now can I show you the wrong way? So I put the more depth into it. He said, that's choppy again. So I learned a lot from that thing. So yeah, my knees were always never got sore anywhere else except the knees.
Uh-huh.
But after that changed as well, except later in life. And then,
so you learn to lower up as you move forward. Basically.
Yes, correct.
Instead of sitting down.
I would lower before I stepped forward, which was the goal, really. I thought everything began with a lowering instead of a weight release. So this was the big thing that I had to learn. So.
What was your you probably haven't heard from Gaetano Iavarone and Massimo Pennati say hello to you, John.
No kidding. Well, I love to. Really.
Yes. What was your favorite dance?
Oh, my favorite dance? My favorite dance was the waltz.
The what?
My best dance was the tango, but my favorite was the waltz.
Uh-huh.
I like
any particular reason? Because of the music? Music, maybe?
Music, yeah. And the subtlety.
Yeah.
And it's still my favorite dance.
Really?
Yes. Oh, very much so.
Yeah. You have a favorite tune? Snow Hurbing, amazing to see you both. Thank you for inspiration. I love to know what is the best advice to give to the student before they go on the dance competition floor. Snow, okay.
Oh, we're going to be talking with Snow in a little bit. So when we're finished,
you're going to have an interview with them, yeah.
Yeah, with Snow and Babette and Irina. So Elena.
So you're gonna have a busy day today.
Yeah, today I'll be talked out by the end of the day. Best advice to give to someone before they go on the floor? Good question. Listen to the music would be the first thing I would say. And second, be as great a partner as you can be.
Thank you.
That's what I always thought.
Very nice.
When Carol and I got to be quite good, and later when I danced with Beverly as well, I tried to be a very good partner. And and it was kind of a way, it was a bit selfish. Because I think you have to focus on yourself to be good for your partner.
Sure.
So many of us forget about that. We try to make our partner dance instead of ourselves. And if we dance ourselves so well, we're great partners. So that's
amazing.
what I learned. I used to focus on. And the other thing that I used to think about a lot, and one of my favorite pupils ever was Domenico Soile. We talked a lot about this, and whether you like Domenico and Joya that much, you got to admit that the guy's feet were terrific.
Oh yeah.
And we talked a lot about that, and I used to think to myself in the course of a comp, 2 choruses or a chorus and a half, how many steps I'd do, and I'd ask Carol afterwards, how many bad ones did I do? And I'd think to myself, I'm going to try to do, in waltz, for instance, you think maybe 96 by 2 is 192, and then another syncopation, you got about 250 steps that you might do in a chorus and a half or 2 choruses. And each of those steps has to be a beautiful step.
Yeah.
And I'd give I'd give the same advice to a social dancer. Learn to take beautiful steps. They may not have the same precision as the expert, but learn to do your steps beautifully. And you'll get great pleasure. And you'll be great to dance with. I mean, everybody loved to dance with Anthony. All the girls loved to dance with Anthony. Why?
Yes.
Because he was so darn good as a man dancer.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember everybody loved to dance with him.
I know Katarina. Katarina loved
Christine Harvey. Can you see Christine Harvey say, "Hi, John, I'm loving listening to your story. Miss you a lot."
No, lovely girl and a terrific dancer.
And Agnes as well.
Christine was very, very good dancer. Once again, a beautiful rib cage. Christine, when she danced with Martin, they made the final of the British Pro. Very deservedly, in my opinion. And knew Christine from a little girl when she was dancing with Russell Monk. Christine was about 9 or 10. I got to know Christine's father very well, Joe. And we were good friends. And Christine was great friends with a lot of the other girls, with Debbie and other people that I got to know.
I hope. What is this? There is the police. I hope it's not any riot there. No, I know you're
safe. We're okay. That was just probably a couple of police cars. Who knows?
Oh.
I don't think we're going to have a riot again. So.
Before we're closing, because I know you're going to be busy on the other interview as well. When do you think? What is your feeling? Obviously, we can't predict anything, but what is your feeling that we're going to be resume and see all each other in one building to see a dance competition and just spend an hour at the bar and have a nice drink and just have a laugh? When do you feel? What do you think?
The first competition actually in the USA is going to take place in Orlando on Sunday.
This Sunday?
Yes, it's a competition run by Tommy DiTommaso and his wife Pam. It was originally scheduled to be in Fort Lauderdale, but they moved it to Orlando. They're going to go with their comp, and then I think next week Carlos Pabon and Marielle are going to run a competition in Cleveland. There'll be differences, but hopefully that will be the spurt to get things back underway again. I'm not sure. I think that what's going to happen in England will also be crucial for all of us. But with the
Sure.
with the 14-day quarantine law, going to England is going to be very difficult for people. And then go
Sure.
to England, 14 days quarantine, then come home, 14 days quarantine again. So
Yeah.
we have to get through this epidemic, and hopefully we will before things get back to normal. I guess, I wasn't around, but I guess it's a lot like what happened in the First and Second World War, where dancing had to go on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah.
People still dance, but competition dancing probably wasn't as much,
I think, yeah, I think, if you are competitive, obviously, if you are at the end of your career, it's a little bit of a struggle. But if you are nearly in the middle, or, it's a good chance for you to improve and, be able to take lessons and change things, and maybe come up with some great performance for the because sometimes I always felt that a competition after a competition after a competition doesn't give you a possibility to improve, where if you take time, like the people that do the marathon, they take time in order to recover, and
Yeah. Well, I would be remiss of me if I didn't give a great deal of credit to someone who taught me a lot about dancing, and that's Sonny Binnick.
Yeah, Sonny. I remember he used to kick you with his knee up your bum.
Too much. He'd put his knee into my butt, so you don't drop. If I put my right shoulder forward, you'd expect a little bit of a punch on there.
Yeah. Boom. I remember. I had the privilege to have some lesson too. So I still feel his hand here.
Yeah. Well, I remember Michael and Vicky, particularly. I remember Mike saying to me one time, "Have you had lessons with Sonny?" I said, "Yeah." He said, I really enjoy it. And Michael said, "Has he put his finger on your back?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I feel I can release my weight much better with Sonny's finger there." And I said, "I don't know why." Of course, I hadn't really learned to use my feet properly to release. Michael, a couple of years ahead of me in that regard, no doubt. But Michael made a particularly interesting remark to me one time, that he turned around to Sonny after Sonny helped him with his finger and said, "Sonny, can I do it unaided now?" I still remember Michael telling me that. Great story. But how many of us learned from Sonny?
Yeah.
Everybody went to Sonny.
True. Yeah.
I think he was more of a teacher for the man than he was for the woman, because in 7 years, I think he said to Carol just one thing, don't tilt your head on those spins so much, Carol. And I remember saying, "What did you say? Say that again."
Can you repeat?
He said, "She heard me." And I remember going,
That's funny.
"Do you understand, John?" "Oh, yeah, I got it, Sonny, I got it." Next week, I hadn't got it. But I finally got it. I understood where I had to do with my feet, especially as to regards rotation. And I think it's so important that young dancers understand how that is. And Sonny used to make me lift my feet like a clown. Place them.
Yeah, to change your weight, to change your weight properly. Yeah.
Weight change and the proper amount of turn, and how I could measure the amount of turn. And Sonny used to say to me, "We've only got really, you don't have to worry so much. You've got a forward step, you've got a side step, you've got a back step, and you've got a turning step. And if you can understand that, and you don't try to make hybrids out of all of them, because they're all different. So if you're going to do a forward step, you finish the forward step before you start the turning step." And this was his big part of him. And Telemark, for instance, finish the turn on the right foot, left foot to the side is a side step. And these were very distinctive things that I learned from him, and that I've tried to pass on. And I remember teaching you and Katerina the same thing, and lots of other people that I've taught.
Yeah, of course.
And dancing with Beverly.
John.
Beverly was a very experienced teacher, but hadn't done too many comps. But very beautiful girl and quite talented. And Eric Hancock's helped her so much.
Yeah.
With foot position, and especially, and I still see it today, and I still sometimes see it at the highest level, that the girls who know how to do a beautiful toe at the beginning of their backward step and then go to the ball of their foot are the superior dancers.
Yeah, true. I agree, 100%.
They keep a beautiful line for their partner in the middle. when they can do that.
Yeah, you feel the support through the center. You know, it's unbelievable.
I mean, of course, as men, we have to be good enough. But Eric was terrific at teaching that to women.
Yeah.
Funny enough, you know, Eric danced with a lot of great women, and you know, the one he said was always the best, and he taught Bobby, and he said that the best girl he ever danced with was Joyce Brampton. Now,
Oh.
very many people would know Joyce today because she lived in America for several years. She used to dance with Dennis Udell.
Oh, okay.
In the pro final when I got to England. Very capable dancers, probably a little bit, you'd look at them and say, a bit old-fashioned compared to Richard and Robin and Anthony. And but Eric used to say Joyce was the best girl he ever danced with.
Oh, wow.
Interesting, isn't it, to hear those stories?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, John. So we have to close our time together. I just, you know, send you my love to you. Thank you for taking the time. I know you have to do another interview. You're gonna be great again, and I'm really looking forward to see you. I don't know when, soon, well, hopefully.
Sooner than later. I mean, I was just saying to Rudy here at the studio that I would have been on my way to Chervia tomorrow.
Yeah.
And already
Amazing.
been. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, say,
amazing.
Augusto, it was a great pleasure for me to be involved in your and Katerina's career. So much involved. I mean,
thank you. Thank you, John. And
a lot of people didn't know that I taught you much because
well, it's okay. We don't have to tell people everything.
No, but beautiful times. So
thank you, John.
Love to.
Thank you, John. I'm looking forward to see you. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
Grazie.
I've enjoyed it very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Ciao. Okay, guys. So that was an amazing inspiration of from John Kimmins. I hope you can review it again and again, because, you know, as you see many times, John, you know, you can feel his love for this world of dance. I just hope that people really use his philosophy in order to carry their career and be successful, you know, because it is important to be successful, but, you know, to have, as I heard many times in England, you need to have the heart in the right place. And John has the heart on the right side, okay? On the correct side, not the right, okay? Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I know he's doing another interview. I'm not sure where, if people want to follow, where to follow it, but I know he's busy. Meanwhile, I'm looking forward to see you next time. I'm not sure I have an idea who to interview, but I'll let you know soon. Ciao. Ciao, ciao. Have a good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon.